Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. We're tackling something pretty awesome today, and I know you're interested in this. It's all about how to use your brain power. Instead of feeling like it's using you, it's like how to take the driver's seat in your own life.
Right.
We've got some cool stuff from personaltransformation.io, their course, how to use your brain and stop being controlled by it.
Oh, nice.
Plus, I found some really interesting notes about the whole neuroscience angle.
Cool.
Get ready, because we're about to dive deep.
Sounds good.
So one thing that's always kind of tripped me up is this idea of beliefs.
Yeah.
Are they just these airy-fairy ideas, or do they have some kind of concrete impact?
That's a great question. And what people often miss is that beliefs, they're not just these fluffy thoughts floating around. They actually have a real physical presence in your brain.
Whoa, really?
Yeah, imagine them like roads.
Yeah.
The more you travel a certain route, the more defined, the more ingrained that road becomes.
Okay, I'm starting to see where you're going with this.
Yeah.
So, my belief that I'm awful at public speaking, that's like a well-worn path in my brain.
Exactly. Every time you think that thought, every time you maybe avoid a speaking opportunity, it's like you're driving down that same bumpy road, just reinforcing it.
Oh, man, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But here's where I get a little stuck.
Okay.
If these beliefs are these deeply ingrained roads,
Right.
can we ever really change them?
That is the million-dollar question, right?
Yeah.
Can we actually reroute those pathways? And, that's where the incredible concept of neuroplasticity comes in.
Okay.
Your brain, it's not static. It's constantly changing. It's adapting.
Well, that's good to know.
You absolutely can change those pathways, those ingrained beliefs.
Well, there's hope.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It's like, you're choosing to take a different route, even if it feels unfamiliar at first.
Right.
But the more you travel that new path, the smoother it gets.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's not about erasing the old road completely.
Right.
It's more about creating new, better paths and choosing to travel those more often.
You got it. That is a fantastic way to put it. And the more you travel those new paths, the stronger they become, the more defined they become, and eventually those old bumpy roads, they start to fade from lack of use.
That's really encouraging. I like that.
Yeah.
So if our brains are like this network of roads, where do we even start?
Yeah.
If we want to navigate towards a more fulfilling life, especially if we've been stuck on those negative pathways for a while.
Okay, well, to make things a little clearer, how about this? Imagine you've got a vehicle. That's your brain.
Okay, my brain is the vehicle.
And you've also got an inner compass, right?
Okay.
That represents your values.
All right, I'm visualizing this. So brain is the vehicle, values are the compass.
Yeah, exactly.
What does that tell me about how to actually navigate?
Well, first, you want to ensure that compass is pointed in the right direction, toward what truly matters to you. And as you're driving along, you can choose to take, the high road, or you can choose to take the low road.
Okay, high road, low road. I'm liking this analogy. What makes a road high or low in this picture?
Good question. So the high road, that represents thoughts, feelings, and actions that are all in alignment with your values. It's paved with positive beliefs, supportive self-talk, those actions that move you toward your goals.
Okay, so it's like cruising along, feeling good, you're on the right track.
Exactly. Now the low road, well, that's where things can get a little bumpy.
Oh,
That's where you find negative self-talk, those limiting beliefs, actions that take you further away from what you truly value.
Yeah, I think we've all been down that low road a few times.
Right.
And it is a rough ride.
It is. But the good news is we have a choice.
We do.
We can choose which road we want to be on.
Okay, so how do we start making those choices to stay on that high road more often?
It starts with awareness. You need to become aware of which road you're on and where it's actually leading you. And this is where mindfulness practices, like those highlighted in the personaltransformation.io course, can really come in handy.
So it's like checking our compass regularly, making sure we're still heading in the right direction.
Exactly, yeah. And being honest with ourselves about whether we're truly on that high road or if we veered off onto the low road.
Right.
And the more you practice this awareness, the easier it becomes to recognize when you're kind of veering off course. And you can gently steer yourself back on track.
Right.
It's not about beating yourself up if you find yourself on the low road. It's about recognizing it and just making a different choice next time.
This is making a lot of sense. But I imagine there are times when those low road pathways, they're so ingrained, so deep that it feels almost impossible to take a different route.
That's a really common feeling, and it's important to remember that you're not alone in that. There are proven strategies, tools, and techniques that can help you reroute those pathways.
Oh, I'm all ears. What are some of those strategies?
Well, one powerful one is called cognitive reframing. It's about consciously challenging those negative thoughts
Okay.
and replacing them with more positive and empowering ones.
So instead of letting those negative thoughts just run on autopilot, we can actually take the wheel and choose a different direction.
Yes, precisely. It's about taking control instead of letting them control you.
I like that.
And like any new skill, it takes practice. But with time and consistency, you can actually train your brain to automatically take that high road more often.
This is feeling very empowering. Okay, so we've got the vehicle, the compass, the high road, low road, and now we've got cognitive reframing as a tool to help us steer in the right direction. I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
It really is all about understanding that you have more control over your thoughts and beliefs than you might initially realize.
Right.
And that control, it gives you the power to create a life that truly aligns with what you value, with your goals, with your aspirations.
That is so powerful. So it's not just about thinking positive thoughts. It's about making those conscious choices.
Right.
Those choices that lead to real lasting change.
100%. And hey, remember the personaltransformation.io course we mentioned?
Yeah.
They've got a whole toolkit of strategies like this, specifically designed to help you, master your mindset and create the life you want.
That's awesome. We'll definitely have to share more details about that course a little later on. But for now, I think we've covered a lot. We've got this big picture. The brain is the vehicle, values is the compass, and choosing between the high road and the low road. We've even touched on cognitive reframing as that tool to help us navigate.
Absolutely.
The key takeaway here, I think, is that we are the drivers of our own lives. We have that power to choose our direction and to create a journey that's both meaningful and fulfilling.
You said it perfectly.
That is a great thought to end this first part on.
It is.
We'll be back in just a bit to dig a little deeper into some more of these powerful strategies for rewiring your brain and steering your life towards greater fulfillment. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone. Before the break, we were really getting into this idea of your brain as the vehicle, values as the compass, and those high and low roads that we can choose between.
Yeah, I'm really digging this analogy. It's so visual, and I can already start to see how it applies to my own life. But I'm a little curious, how does this vehicle, compass, roads thing connect to those ingrained beliefs we were talking about earlier?
Great question. Well, imagine those deep-seated beliefs as roadblocks or detours on your journey.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
They can really make it tough to stay on that high road and actually reach your destination, especially if you're feeling unsatisfied with life right now.
Right, so even if our compass is pointing in the right direction, these roadblocks can make it tough to get where we want to go. They can show up as negative self-talk, those limiting beliefs that we all have, maybe even fears that kind of hold us back from taking action.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But if these roadblocks are so ingrained, so deep, how do we even begin to remove them? It feels like some of them have been there forever.
It's important to remember, and this is a big one, you are not stuck with those roadblocks.
Oh, good.
You have the power to remove them, or at least, navigate around them. Remember neuroplasticity. Your brain is always adapting.
Right, right.
So you can create new pathways and literally reroute your journey.
So it's not like we can magically erase them overnight,
Right.
but it's more about finding ways to work with them or create those detours.
That's it. And the more you practice navigating around those roadblocks, the easier it becomes. Eventually, those old limiting beliefs, they start to lose their grip on you.
That is so encouraging.
Right.
So what are some specific strategies we can use, to actually remove these roadblocks or find those detours?
Well, we touched on one earlier. Remember cognitive reframing?
Yeah.
It's about consciously challenging those negative thoughts and replacing them with, more positive and empowering ones. It's like seeing a detour sign on that road and making the choice to take a different route instead of just sitting there stuck on that blocked road.
So instead of just accepting those negative thoughts as truth, we can actually question them, challenge them, and choose a different perspective.
You got it. It's about taking control, instead of letting them control you.
Okay, that is a game changer. Are there any other strategies that we can use to reroute those negative pathways?
Absolutely, there are tons. Another really powerful technique is visualization.
Ooh, visualization.
Yeah, it's about creating this clear mental image of yourself. And in this image, you're successfully navigating those roadblocks, you're reaching your goals,
Yeah.
you're living a life that's aligned with your
So
values.
it's like mental rehearsal for success,
Yeah.
and that can make it more likely to actually happen.
Exactly. When you repeatedly visualize yourself overcoming challenges and achieving those goals, you're strengthening the neural pathways in your brain that are associated with success.
That's so cool. It's like our brains don't always know the difference between what we've actually experienced and what we've, vividly imagined.
You're exactly right. That's why visualization can be so powerful. It's like giving your brain a blueprint for success.
I love that. So we've got cognitive reframing to challenge those negative thoughts. We've got visualization for creating that picture of success. Any other techniques we should add to our arsenal?
Oh, for sure. Affirmations are another great one.
Ah, affirmations, yes.
Positive statements that you repeat to yourself, to really reinforce those beliefs that you want to cultivate.
So it's like giving our brains these positive pep talks, to help us stay on that high road.
Yes, that is a great way to put it. And the more you repeat them, the more consistently you repeat those affirmations, the more you're reinforcing those positive beliefs. And it's like those old limiting beliefs start to lose their power.
It all makes so much sense. But I have a question. How do we know which affirmations to use? It seems like there are so many out there.
That's where going back to your values, that inner compass, can be so helpful. Choose affirmations that really resonate with what matters most to you, that support the person you want to become.
So not just picking random affirmations that sound good, but really aligning them with our deepest values.
Exactly. That's when they become much more powerful, much more effective. They're not just words anymore, they're guiding principles for your life.
I'm really seeing how important it is to have that strong connection to our values. Like they're the foundation for everything else, our beliefs, our choices, the actions we take.
You hit the nail on the head. Values are the compass that points us towards a life that's meaningful, fulfilling, joyful.
That is inspiring. But, I know it can be tough to stay connected to those values, especially when life gets busy and stressful.
Oh, absolutely.
Are there any practices that can help us strengthen that connection?
There are, for sure. One of the most effective ones is mindfulness. Remember, we talked about it. It's all about paying attention to the present moment without judgment.
Right, right. So instead of getting lost in all the worries and distractions,
Yeah.
we can bring our attention back to right here, right now.
Exactly. And when you practice mindfulness, you become so much more aware of your thoughts, your feelings, even your physical sensations.
Okay, that's cool. But how does mindfulness actually help us stay connected to our values?
Well, when you're more present, more aware, you can really notice when your thoughts and feelings, even your actions, are in alignment with your values. And you'll notice when they're not. It's like having this built-in alert system that lets you know if you're veering off course.
Oh, I like that. So mindfulness gives us that extra awareness, that nudge to make choices that are truly aligned with what we value.
Precisely. And the more you practice, the easier it becomes to recognize those moments when you're maybe tempted to take that low road. And you can gently, redirect yourself, steer yourself back to the high road.
This is feeling a lot more manageable. Like, we're not just victims of our thoughts and feelings. We can actually choose a different path.
That's the power we have. You have more control over your inner world than you might think. And when you master your inner world, that's when your outer world starts to reflect that.
I love that. So it's not just about, thinking positive thoughts. It's about cultivating this deeper awareness of our thoughts, our feelings, our values, so we can make choices that lead to a life that feels really good, a fulfilling life.
You got it. And remember, that personaltransformation.io course we mentioned, it's got a treasure trove of resources to help you along the way.
Yes, we'll definitely share more about that a bit later. But I think we've covered some awesome ground here. We explored cognitive reframing, visualization, affirmations, even mindfulness, all these powerful techniques for rewiring those pathways in our brains and staying on that high road to a more fulfilling life.
Absolutely. And remember, consistency is key. The more you practice, the stronger those positive pathways become, and those old limiting beliefs just start to fade away.
I am so inspired by all of this. It's incredible to think that we have the power to literally change our brains, to create a life that's aligned with who we truly are, with what we value.
It is an incredible journey, and it's available to anyone who is ready to put in the work.
We'll be right back to wrap things up and share some final thoughts on how to make these principles a part of your everyday life, so stay tuned. Welcome back to the Deep Dive. This whole conversation, brains as vehicles, values as the compass, It's really sticking with me.
Yeah, it's a powerful way to look at it for sure. Really highlights that we've got choices every step of the way, high road or low road.
Totally. And we've talked about some pretty amazing techniques for like rewiring those brain pathways,
Hmm.
staying on that high road, cognitive reframing, visualization, affirmations, mindfulness. But here's the thing. What about when we hit those inevitable bumps in the road? Because, life, it's not always smooth sailing.
So true. And, setbacks, challenges, they're just part of the deal. It's not about avoiding them entirely. It's about how we handle them when they pop up.
Right, so not staying on the high road perfectly, 24/7. It's more about having the skills to get back on track when we, maybe take a detour.
Exactly. Think of it like this. Even the best drivers, they run into detours sometimes, unexpected roadblocks. The key is having the tools, the mindset to navigate those things effectively.
I like that. So how do we build that kind of resilient mindset, that bounce back ability when those bumps hit?
One big one is cultivating self-compassion, treating ourselves kindly with understanding, especially when we make mistakes or, face those setbacks.
So instead of beating ourselves up for taking a wrong turn, we can be supportive, encouraging, like we would be with a friend going through the same thing.
Exactly that. We all make mistakes. It's part of being human. The trick is to learn from them, move on with a fresh perspective.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Self-compassion key.
Hmm.
What other strategies can help us navigate those inevitable tough times?
Another good one is focusing on our strengths. When we're feeling discouraged, overwhelmed, it's easy to get stuck on what we're not good at, the things we see as weaknesses. But when we shift that focus to our strengths, that's where we tap into this inner resilience, this confidence.
So remembering what we're good at and letting that guide us through those rough patches.
Yep. Reminding ourselves that, yeah, we might be facing a detour, but we still have the skills, the resources to get through it. We've done it before.
Love that. Self-compassion when we're down on ourselves, focusing on strengths to remember what we're capable of. But I have a question. Ever get that feeling, like you're driving through fog? Not literally, of course, but in life,
Yeah.
when you just feel kind of lost, unsure which way to go. It's like you can't see the path ahead
Oh,
clearly.
yeah, I know that feeling. It's a universal experience, that feeling of being stuck, in the fog.
Exactly. And that's what we're going to dive into, how to navigate through that fog, using the power of your own brain.
Sounds intriguing.
It is.
These metaphors, they do provide a great framework for understanding how our beliefs can shape our experiences.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. How just like a driver needs the right tools to navigate through actual fog,
Right.
we need specific tools for our minds.
Makes sense.
It's not just about willpower. It's about understanding how our brains actually work.
Exactly. And that's where acceptance and commitment therapy, or ACT, comes in. It gives us a roadmap for navigating those foggy times.
ACT. I have to admit, it sounded a little intimidating at first.
Oh, yeah.
But the more I read, the more I realized it's actually about making peace with those uncomfortable feelings instead of trying to, fight them.
Exactly. That's a really important part of it. The first principle of ACT is acceptance.
Okay.
Instead of resisting the fog, we acknowledge that it's there.
So instead of pretending the fog isn't there, we're like, okay, it's foggy, but I can still figure out how to drive safely.
Yeah, exactly. And that leads us to the second principle, cognitive diffusion. It's about recognizing that our thoughts aren't always facts.
Okay, so like, if our thoughts are kind of like cars passing by in the fog, we don't have to swerve out of the way every time one comes along.
Exactly. We can observe them without letting them totally dictate our direction. We can choose which thoughts to engage with and which ones to just kind of let pass by.
Okay, this is starting to make more sense.
Yeah.
But what about those times when it's not just our thoughts that feel foggy, but like we feel lost?
Right. That brings us to the third principle, contact with the present moment. It's about grounding yourself in the here and now, much like a driver would focus on the road right in front of them in really thick fog.
Staying present, focusing on what we can control right now. Okay, got it.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes there's still this kind of nagging feeling of, I'm lost, who am I? It's like deeper than just foggy thoughts.
Yeah, I get that. That's where the fourth principle of ACT comes in. Self as context. It's recognizing that you are not your thoughts or your emotions, you're the observer, the driver navigating through all that fog.
Okay, so I'm the driver, not the car.
Yeah.
But if I'm lost in the fog, how do I know which way to even go?
Well, that's where your values come in. Values are like your headlights, illuminating the path that aligns with, well, your true self.
I love that. Values as headlights. So it's
Yeah.
about clarifying what's really important to us and using those values to guide our decisions, even when we can't see the full road ahead.
Exactly. That's really it. And that leads to the sixth principle, committed action.
Okay.
Even if you can only see a short distance in the fog, you just keep moving forward, in the direction your headlights are pointing.
Got it.
You trust your values to guide you.
Okay, so even if it's just like baby steps, keep moving in the direction of your values,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll eventually find your way out of the fog.
That's the idea. And, the really cool thing about these ACT principles is that they're not just random self-help tips. They're actually rooted in some pretty solid science. And they're echoed across different fields like neuroscience
Oh, wow.
and even philosophy.
So it's like ancient wisdom, but it's meeting modern science.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we've got acceptance, cognitive diffusion, being present,
Right.
remembering that we are the driver, and following our values as headlights. What was that last principle again?
Committed action. Making that choice to move forward, guided by your values.
Right. Committed action.
Mm.
Okay, now the brain is a vehicle. Our beliefs literally form the roadmap that we follow in life.
Right.
But sometimes those well-worn neural pathways can actually lead us down the wrong road,
Yeah.
right? Like if I'm used to taking the same route to work every day, even if there's like construction, my brain might just automatically take me that way without even thinking.
That's a great analogy. Our past experiences, especially those with, a strong emotional charge, they can create these deep ruts in our mental roadmap. And it can be really hard to break free from those patterns, even if they're not really serving us anymore.
Yeah, so it's like getting stuck in a rut on a dirt road.
Yeah,
You keep going in the same direction, even if it's bumpy and uncomfortable just because it's familiar.
exactly. But here's where things get really interesting. Neuroplasticity.
Neuroplasticity, that's the brain's ability to change and adapt, right?
That's it.
So even if we've been stuck in a mental rut for a while,
Yeah.
we can actually create new pathways.
Absolutely. Our brains are so incredibly adaptable, they're constantly rewiring themselves based on our experiences and our thoughts.
That's encouraging. So it's not like we're stuck with like a faulty GPS forever.
No.
We can actually update our mental maps and chart a new course. But how do we do that? Like, how do we actually rewire our brains for this high road you were talking about?
Few strategies. One is thought stopping.
Okay.
When you catch yourself thinking, a negative or limiting thought,
Yeah.
you actually consciously stop it in its tracks.
Okay, I like that. It's like putting up a roadblock on that low road pathway.
Yeah.
What else could we do?
Another strategy is cognitive reframing. That's where you consciously choose a more empowering thought to replace the negative one.
Okay, so instead of thinking, I am not good enough, I might reframe it as, I'm learning and growing. Exactly.
Or I'm capable of more than I think.
Exactly.
I love practical tools and resources.
Me too.
So thought stopping, cognitive reframing.
Mm.
What else?
Visualization is another really powerful technique. That's where you vividly imagine yourself embodying those new positive beliefs.
Okay, so if you want to be more confident, for example,
Yeah.
you might visualize yourself, speaking up in a meeting or taking on a new challenge, but with ease, like a mental rehearsal.
Precisely. And alongside visualization, repeating affirmations can be incredibly helpful. Those are those positive statements that help to reinforce those new neural pathways.
Right, it's like we're laying down fresh asphalt on that high road path, making it smoother and easier to travel.
I like that analogy.
I'm starting to see how all of this connects back to that feeling of being in the fog.
Yeah.
If we can rewire our brains to think more positively,
Mm.
we can actually change the way we experience life. That's the power of neuroplasticity. And here's another key point, embracing new experiences. Stepping outside your comfort zone, trying new things, it can actually create new neural connections in your brain.
That makes sense. It's like venturing off that familiar rutted path and kind of forging a whole new trail. Keeps the brain adaptable, open to new possibilities.
Exactly. It's about proving to your brain that you're capable of so much more than you thought.
Okay, all of this is really starting to paint a pretty hopeful picture.
Good.
But I'm wondering,
What's on your mind?
well, we've been talking about, the brain as a vehicle and our beliefs as the roadmap, but what about that inner compass metaphor? How do we make sure our mental maps are actually aligned with our internal compass, so to speak?
That's a great question. And that brings us right back to the importance of clarifying those core values.
Values as the compass, guiding the vehicle.
Exactly.
Okay, but how do we make sure that, that mental roadmap, those beliefs we've been talking about,
Hmm.
How do we make sure they're actually aligned with our values? It's like, what's the point of having a powerful engine in our brain vehicle, right? If we're
Yeah.
using a map that leads us somewhere we don't even want to go.
That's the key, isn't it? Making sure we're headed in the right direction. It's all about tuning into what really matters, taking some time to really reflect on what brings meaning and purpose to your life.
Okay.
What are those guiding principles, the ones you want to live by? Those are your values.
So it's like taking a minute to calibrate our compass, making sure it's pointed in the right direction. I'm guessing this ties back to that whole ACT thing, right?
It does.
That idea of committed action being guided by our values.
Exactly. Once we've got those values clarified, it's about consciously choosing to align our actions with them.
Okay.
It's about constantly asking ourselves, does this choice, this behavior, this thought even, is this moving me closer to what I truly value or further away?
Oh, okay. So like if one of my core values is, let's say, connection, but I'm always isolating myself because, I don't know, maybe I'm afraid of rejection.
Yeah.
Then my actions aren't matching up with what I value.
Right.
I'm basically driving in the fog with, like, no headlights,
Yeah.
even if I've got good intentions.
Exactly. And that misalignment, that can create a sense of conflict, inside and dissatisfaction. It's like knowing where you want to go, but you're just driving in circles
Oh, yeah.
because you're not following the compass.
This is making so much sense. It's like all those times I've felt lost or unfulfilled. It's because I was veering off course, letting fear be the driver instead of my values.
And that's where the power of, changing your beliefs comes in. When we start to challenge those limiting beliefs that keep us stuck on that low road, and we start aligning our thoughts and our actions with what we value, it's like we're finally turning on the headlights and heading in the right direction.
Okay, I'm with you. But how do we actually do that? Like, how do we go from those limiting beliefs to ones that are more empowering, ones that actually match up with our values?
Those beliefs we have, they're actually encoded in different areas of the brain.
Really? So it's not just one part of the brain that's like in charge of all our beliefs.
Nope, not at all. It's a whole network, a bunch of different regions all working together. They're always shaping and reshaping our beliefs based on what we experience, what we think.
It's like a dynamic map
Yeah.
that's constantly getting updated with new information.
Yeah.
Okay, but if we want to consciously change those beliefs,
Yeah.
update the map ourselves, how do we even start?
Well, remember that thing we were talking about, neuroplasticity?
Yeah, the brain's amazing ability to change and adapt.
Right. One of the key players in that process is a little neurotransmitter called dopamine.
Dopamine, that's the feel-good chemical, right? The one we get when we do something pleasurable or rewarding.
That's the one. And it turns out dopamine plays a huge role in strengthening those neural pathways. It's like it helps pave those new roads in our brains.
So when we experience something new and it's rewarding, or we challenge our old beliefs and create new ones that are better for us,
Yeah.
then dopamine gets released and those new pathways get stronger.
Exactly. That's why celebrating those little wins along the way is so important. Those bursts of dopamine, they reinforce those positive changes. Makes it more likely that those new good beliefs are going to stick around.
It's like giving ourselves a little pat on the back for staying on that high road.
Exactly. So we've got dopamine in the mix. But how does the brain actually decide which pathways it wants to strengthen and which ones it's going to let just fade away?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
It's basically how our brains go about updating our beliefs when we get new info.
Okay, that sounds pretty intense.
It might sound complicated, but the basic idea is this. Our brains are always weighing the evidence. They're comparing new information to the beliefs we already have and then making adjustments.
So it's like the brain has its own little internal fact-checking system.
You got it. So if we want to change our beliefs, we need to feed our brains new info that backs up those new beliefs.
It's like giving our brain's fact-checker a whole new set of data to work with.
Exactly. That's why being open to new experiences and information is so important, even if it challenges what we currently believe. It's all about being willing to update those mental maps as we learn and grow.
My brain, it starts to update that old belief because now it has this new evidence.
You're basically proving to yourself that the old belief might not have been entirely true.
So by putting ourselves in those situations, the ones that challenge those old beliefs, we're giving our brains a chance to reevaluate and update.
Right. But here's another key part of the puzzle, critical thinking.
Ooh, critical thinking. Okay.
This is huge for changing beliefs. It's all about really questioning how valid your beliefs actually are, looking at the evidence, and being open to different points of view.
So instead of just accepting our beliefs as, as fact, we need to actually examine them.
You got it. We need to be asking ourselves things like, is this really true? What evidence do I have? What evidence goes against it? And where did this belief even come from in the first place?
It's like we're becoming like mindful map makers,
Yeah.
taking control of the info that's actually shaping our mental landscapes.
That's a great way to think about it. And that's where those thought-stopping and cognitive reframing techniques really come in handy.
Right.
They're like tools that help us, consciously step in and steer our beliefs in a more positive direction.
Okay, this is all starting to come together.
Hmm.
But there's got to be one more thing, right? Something else we need to consider when we're trying to change beliefs.
You're right. There's one more big element. Emotions.
Emotions, okay.
Our feelings, they play a huge role in how we process info and form our beliefs.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like if I'm feeling anxious or defensive,
Right.
I'm probably not going to be very open to new information,
Yeah.
even if it's like staring me right in the face.
Exactly. So learning how to manage those emotions, creating a more, calm and grounded internal state, that can be a game changer when you're trying to change those beliefs.
So it's not just about changing our thoughts, it's also about creating the right emotional environment so those new beliefs can take root.
You got it. We need to recognize that our thoughts, our feelings, and our beliefs, they're all connected.
This is getting deep. It's not just about willpower or thinking positively. It's about understanding this whole complex dance between what we think, how we feel, and even how our brains are physically structured.
It is complex, but that's what makes this journey of self-discovery so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's not about forcing change, but more about understanding how your mind works and using that knowledge to create real, lasting transformation.
This is a lot to process.
It is. But the main thing to remember is this. You have way more power over your beliefs than you might think. Your brain is constantly evolving, and with the right tools and understanding, you can absolutely rewire it for, greater happiness, fulfillment, more resilience, all of that good stuff.
I love that. It's like we're not just passengers on this journey, we're the drivers, the map makers, we're the navigators.
Yeah.
Okay, but before we get too carried away with all this brain talk, something's been on my mind.
Oh, what is it?
All this talk about the brain and our beliefs, sometimes it feels kind of self-centered.
Yeah.
It's like it's all about me, and my own personal transformation. But what about the impact our beliefs have on everyone else, on the world around us? Does that even tie into all of this?
That's a great point. It actually explains how our beliefs, they don't just shape our own experiences, they actually ripple outwards. They affect how we interact with others, the choices we make in the world, all of that.
Oh, okay. So like if I'm always operating from a place of fear or
Yeah.
scarcity, that's going to come out in how I treat other people,
Exactly.
how I show up in my relationships,
Yeah,
even how I contribute to society as a whole.
precisely.
Mm.
Our beliefs can actually become these self-fulfilling prophecies. They influence not only our own lives, but the lives of everyone around us.
So belief change, it's not just about us. It's about creating a ripple effect of good stuff in the world.
That's a beautiful way to put it. As we shift our beliefs towards, things like compassion, understanding, and empowerment, those changes, they spread outward. They create a more positive and harmonious world for everyone.
I love that. It makes this whole journey feel so much more meaningful. It's
Yeah.
like by working on ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
we're also contributing to a bigger collective transformation.
And that's such a powerful reminder that we're all connected and that our own journeys, our growth and healing, it can have a huge impact on the world around us.
Wow. Okay, that puts a whole new spin on things.
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty inspired to keep exploring all these ideas and to see how I can use them, not just in my own life,
Yeah.
but also in how I interact with others and how I contribute to the world.
That's the spirit. It's important to remember that changing your beliefs, it's not a one-time thing. It's a journey, a lifelong process of learning and growing.
So we just got to stay curious, open to new possibilities, and keep learning along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And that brings us to our final thought for today.
Okay, let's hear it.
If your brain is a car, your beliefs are the map, and your values are that compass.
Okay, I remember this.
What kind of journey are you creating for yourself?
Wow, that really makes you think, doesn't it? It's like, are we heading in the direction we really want to go? Is this path aligned with what we truly value?
Exactly. And it reminds us we have the power to choose, to change the map, and create a journey that is truly fulfilling and meaningful.
I love that. And remember, everyone listening, You don't have to do this alone. All those resources we talked about, they're there to support you every step of the way.
That's right.
Anything else to add to the resilience toolbox?
One more that I think is super important, the power of connection. When things are tough, it's easy to isolate, but reaching out to others, getting support, that can make a world of difference.
So remember, we don't have to go through it alone. There are people who care, who want to see us succeed.
Exactly. Friends, family, a supportive community, connecting with others brings that sense of belonging, encouragement, a fresh perspective.
That's a really important reminder. We're social creatures. We need that connection. Especially when things are rough, it's good to lean on those who are there for us.
Couldn't agree more. And those same folks, they can also help us celebrate the wins, the milestones along the way. Life's a journey, and it's meant to be shared.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. We've covered so much. The science behind how beliefs form, practical techniques to rewire our brains, learning how to handle challenges with grace and resilience. I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for creating a life I actually want to live.
Me too. And the best part is, these tools, they're available to everyone. It's never too late to start changing those beliefs, to create a life that truly reflects what you value, what you dream of.
And don't forget the personaltransformation.io course we kept mentioning, how to use your brain and stop being controlled by it. Even more guidance and support for anyone who wants to take this work further.
Absolutely. It's packed with stuff to help you master your mindset, create the life you want.
Well, that about wraps things up for this deep dive. We explored some cool concepts, powerful techniques, hopefully some inspiring insights for you all out there.
It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed sharing this time with you and your listeners. Remember, you have the power to change those beliefs, to reshape your world. Don't be afraid to use it to create a life that truly lights you up.
That is a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible deep dive. We hope you enjoyed the journey and are feeling ready to create a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling. Until next time, keep diving deep.